Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genea desk in the last week since last we met. I'm so excited to have our panelists here today. We had a very calm green room because we've got this streamlined and you guys have been contributing topics. So Melinda is here. She's working the YouTube side as Sheri's away. Um, Family comes first, especially fun events. But let me introduce everybody. We're going to take Hillary first because she's got book club. So before I introduce everybody else, let me talk with you, Hillary. What's up lately?
Yeah. Well, I've actually got book club this evening, which is the Society of Genealogists for as part of their member benefits is they do a book club once a month, and
Yeah.
this month they've been doing one called A Tomb with a View. We did a House with a View one, which was in London, but this A Tomb with a View is cemeteries in different parts of the British Isles. I say the British Isles because it's part of some of them are in Ireland, what is now Southern Ireland or Éire, and so there's certainly what sort of Dublin was one of them that was mentioned. So it's not just in what is now called the United Kingdom. So but it's quite interesting because it's a lot of these cemeteries are no longer used for burials as such, so they are being repurposed. Some of them have quite a lot of visitors, in the hundreds of thousands of visitors, some of these, so it's quite an interesting to actually go and read a book that's a bit about it, and I've also been publishing things on my blog as well.
Well,
the Roslyn blog. I'm doing, as I mentioned last week, I'm doing a once a month. We're doing a Guild of One Name Studies challenge to do a blog post.
yes.
And this month it was genealogy mistakes. So I've published another short blog post mentioning what can happen and just giving a possible way that a couple of people in my one name study could have been confused with each other had I not started doing my one name study and looking more closely at the family.
So this is what the most common mistake you're referring to, where they start researching and don't take notes, basically.
Yeah, somebody sent me a whole family tree that they and some other people had been researching. This was quite a few years ago now, and I've just put a little snippet of it. So basically they've got names and dates and places there, but they didn't send me any sources for how they found that and knew that information. I mean, I've managed to confirm at least some of that now. I mean, I've got the marriage, the first item on there. I've got the actual marriage, the digital image of the marriage, so I know that's correct. But there are some errors in that tree, and so when I first started doing my one name study, I did it thinking, I'll do this as a one name study because I've got all this information about this family, but other than the bit that I've researched, which was my husband's direct ancestors, I don't know whether the rest of this is correct or not, because I've got no sources in that to indicate whether these people are correct. And they've also only, if you notice, they've only got partial information there. They've got a marriage for a Richard Roslin to a Rebecca. We don't know what her maiden name was.
Well, it's a little frustrating, and folks who tend regularly know that Hillary does this stuff with WikiTree, and this is exactly why I love WikiTree, is that the accent is on let's get the sources in there so that people know where you got that information from. And you're having a source-a-thon. Tell us about that.
Yeah, they're having a source-a-thon in early October. it starts on the 4th and finishes on the 7th. Although it does depend where you live in the world as to whether it actually starts on the 4th or not. Because I think by the time, if you live over in probably New Zealand, it might actually start on the 5th because of the time differences, and that it's 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time that it starts. So as usual, there's quite a lot of different teams, geographical ones, and I think we've got at least one that looks at a lot of the very early records, which can be difficult to research. So they may only manage to source a profile in the whole weekend because of the time it takes to look at things. But it's what we're trying to do is add, at least make sure we've added at least one source to a lot of these unsourced profiles that we've got on WikiTree. You know, a lot of these were added historically. People added them, thought they'd come back and put a source on them, and then they've either left WikiTree, something's happened, they've not come back and done it. So
people tend to kind of work. They can kind of tend to work in cycles, don't you think? I mean, at least that's how it is for me.
I mean, I've got some that have got very, very little source. I might have added something to the GEDCOM that I uploaded in 2011 from a GEDCOM that somebody else sent me, and then it didn't. All I had was information that they had. Chances are it's right, but I've still struggling to find the sources for some of these. So it's important that we find them. I think as more and more things get digitized, a lot of these things will either be proven or disproven. I mean, it's just as important to disprove something as it is to prove it. So
that's how Cousin Russ was about things. He wanted to disprove 9 Ways to Sunday, and it either proves or disproves. It's, in other words, he was so focused on trying to disprove that he looked at a variety of sources. So very good. Well, we appreciate your being here, even though you've got book club and it's a big deal. I have been sharing with the group, the Society of Genealogists, your website with that Genealogy Mistakes blog post, and the WikiTree registration for the Sourceathon. Also, a little bit later, after we do the rest of checking in with the other panelists, we're going to talk about things like time zone converters, which conveniently and brilliantly is listed here, right there on that page at the Sourceathon on WikiTree, the Sourceathon registration. Try saying that 3 times fast. But I digress. So thank you very much, Hillary. Let's bring everybody else back up on the panel, if you please. So, Frank, you're our guy in Germany. What have you been doing? We haven't done a check-in now in a week. It's been a week or two. What's new on your research?
Actually, nothing.
Okay.
I have been still busy with the big move in my department, where we have to hurl a whole archive from 2 rooms to 1.5.
And fit it all in just perfectly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I understand you come home exhausted. So you're off the hook till you get moved in. Then we'll crack the whip. Okay. Maria's my timekeeper today. Thank you. Been doing any research?
I have. My eldest grandson, who is 23, finally has had a little spark of interest. So I have started his father's line. And he seems pretty interested, and that pleases me, obviously. And learning some new stuff. So yeah.
So that's good from a one-to-one relationship. You have a great discussion going on. Plus, I know inside you're like, yes, finally.
Yeah.
Where are the lines taking you? What states or countries?
Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama. So in areas that I'm not familiar with research. So I'm just taking it one step at a time.
Great.
And I'm managing my sources.
Okay, that's very good. Yeah, keep track of what you looked at so you don't have to look
Yes.
at it again. Okay, Randy, I think I forgot to officially introduce you last week. So, Randy Seaver, what have you been doing lately in your genealogy?
It was a busy week. I've done a couple of new things in addition to, the regular day after day blog posts. First of all, I finally finished the genealogical sketch for my mother. Okay,
That's a big one. That's a
That-
biggie.
I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay.
But that completes my my known ancestors back through fourth great grandparents.
Okay, let me pull this up.
I don't know, 200, 150 sketches.
Wow.
I have a lot more sketches, of course, but that's that's where it is. So that was a big deal because it was long, and I added a bunch of pictures. Then I've been doing a series on Ask AI, and so with Ask AI, I asked it to give me research tips on what to find for my mystery Sarah Fletcher, born 1802 and probably in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me a whole list of suggestions. I've been working through those. I found that a lot of the books for Prince Edward County in Ontario are still in copyright.
Mm.
And consequently, I can't access them easily. So, and then thirdly, the FamilySearch full text search I found had a number of deeds for Alex Sovereign, my third great grandfather, and and again in Ontario. And so I downloaded about 20 images for him, and his wife has mentioned a couple times. And so I have a lot more to transcribe as time goes on. I did transcribe another of the deeds for James Kemp, also he's my second great grandfather.
Do you know
in Ontario?
Do you know on that will? You know the wife's maiden name?
The will, the deed?
Not the deed. The thing before this. You said it was a will. And I was wondering if you knew and you said it mentioned his wife. And I wondered if you knew her maiden name.
I'm not sure. I don't follow. I'm sorry.
A will that I looked at.
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay. A will that I looked at.
I knew the maiden name before. Yeah.
Yeah. A will that I looked at recently had a name that I was unfamiliar with as one of the witnesses to the will. And in finding out about it, it was the brother of the wife.
Yep.
That's how I found her maiden name relationship and all that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was curious. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. So that's been the week. I highlight my weeks so that I can remember them every Monday after this meeting. So I'll put something up again today about this last week. So
sounds pretty good. Thank you. Ellen, what have you been doing lately, genealogically speaking?
Right now, in the evenings, I'm scanning all my mother's handwritten recipes because I'm going to make a recipe book with my niece's help. And the other thing I worked on this past week was thanks to Randy. Thanks. He gave me an idea to go to the lab, the FamilySearch lab, and because they had added some Canadian records and they have wills and now land records, and found some interesting things there. So I'll be YouTubing about that.
Okay. And do feel free over in the Dear Myrtle Facebook group to add links to your videos and things. It's one of the perks that expands, different group of people, so that any of you, that your blog posts and things, because people who tend know and love you all. They do, and they want to know what you're doing. Dave, Valerie's just having a heart attack here. She's so glad to see you back. We've been missing you. And as I said, we've got panelists that are busy in their real life. Not that this isn't real, but I know you're a little bit busy. And some of it's visiting with your sister, and I love that.
Yeah, just very, very quickly, I hit 100 blood donations the other day, and I gave praise to my brother-in-law, who died about 5 or 6 years ago, because he was my inspiration to start that all. Because he used to go to dialysis and sit for 4 hours 3 times a week, and they would draw the blood out, clean it, and put it back in. And I didn't understand. I tried to do platelets, but I couldn't understand how. I couldn't stand doing it. I mean, I just couldn't sit there for 2 hours. It drove me crazy, which gave me even more respect for my brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate, so I'm getting a lot of good responses from that. But I feel pretty good about it, and I'm going to continue. So we'll see what happens.
I think that's wonderful.
Well,
we're glad to have you. Welcome back. And let's see what folks are saying. We'll go through some of these comments. Okay. Valerie says, apparently I'm picking on Valerie today. Going from the 60s to the warm 80s. Wait, hanging on to summer. Wow. John saying Shaker Heights, hello. Bit of a cold snap, a little bit warmer on Wednesday. And Melinda says, I used to work right down the road from you in the 1990s. I'm assuming that genealogists normally say, put the full 4-year thing so we know which century. But of course I know Melinda. So anyway, hi to Marcia for being here. Sunny fall day. Flo says, happy Monday to all. There's some of the one of the URLs I sent to you all. Linda Stufflebean, it's cooling down to all of 100 degrees. Oh dear. And let's see what we've got. Yeah, Betty Lou says a nice cooler day in Arkansas. John says summer in Ohio is still good, Melinda. Yes, I would be jealous. She's facing the onslaught of a possible severe weather. Bev's here from Victoria, BC. Good morning from Arlington, Virginia. Karen, Mr. Myrt used to have his townhouse over in Kingstown, which is part of Alexandria, Virginia. And I graduated from Churchill High School at Potomac, Maryland. So we're pretty familiar with with Nova, Northern Virginia. Hillary, you still here? What is this? You're going to start working on your Australian research? Why?
I'm getting a look. I've got ancestors that have, well, not ancestors, relatives. So they're sort of great aunts, great uncles, however many times and whatever, that have gone to Australia. One actually died on the voyage at sea, but her children ended up in Australia. So
yeah.
And then I've also got some Canadian ones as well. So I'm going to have to start doing a bit more research. The Canadian ones, I have done some things. I know I've had people that have gone over to Canada before now, and they're not really early ones. They're ones where there might be census records. So I have actually done some.
You can work on it. Yeah. We really are a global community, not just our research takes us all over the world. And this comes up, thanks to Randy's info and rechecking the Bohemia, Austria records. Yeah, over 9 pages of, is ZMRAHL a surname or a place? Melinda, let me know in a subsequent comment. Really want to know what people are doing. Melissa's here. The archive lady is here for a bit. We love you. In fact, we're going to talk about what to do with what is this stuff we've got. I read a post. Let me read the text of it. I think we've introduced everybody. Yeah. Oh, the thing I've done this week is, genealogically speaking, is to help my local historical society with their IRS processing for their 501c3. Okay, what are we talking about? Okay, here's the challenge. There was a person in the Genealogy Squad Facebook group who said, I am downsizing my documentation after 30 years of research. Now, this is a question for everybody, not just my wonderful panelists. I want to hear from y'all on the YouTube side. She says, this is her question. When I purchased a birth, death, or marriage certificate, I kept a document, the document I got, a copy of my request, a copy of the check I included, copies of the reference site on Ancestry or FamilySearch, if that's where she got it. And going forward, her question is, what do you keep and why? Wow. Now, she's dating herself. I only write checks very rarely. But what is important to keep? What do you think? Jump in here, panelists.
I don't think there's any reason to keep the check. The fact that she got the document proves that she paid for it, so there's no point there.
Yeah.
I can't think of, I've already lost my thought on what else to keep to hold on to.
Well, so that's just one is fine.
Yeah.
Frank, you're muted in StreamYard.
Yep, I would keep the original documents, obviously. I would not keep the whole request, but just the time when it's when I have done it in an abbreviated form.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when I, for example, just got a transcribed version of the documents that I asked then and then. So I have hope when sometime later it get released, I get the whole scan.
Yeah. I beg to differ with you on the information that you requested. Because do you remember when we used to order microfilm, guys, from the family history centers, and it had the microfilm number and the title and the item number on the film? Because sometimes a film could have, Quaker church records and something from Iowa that's not Quaker, and then something else. And the third item is it's where the document is found on that roll of microfilm. I kept those for a long time till I got really good at citing my sources. So what do you think about that as far as doing something to keep that information available to you? Let me know.
For me, I just keep the document, and as long as I got the information, I really don't think I need anything else. But
okay.
I mean, you're citing your sources. That sounds perfect. I would do that.
If you got the document in, hard copy, you'd probably scan it because you want to attach it in your genealogy or put it in your blog.
Yeah, and I put it in the cloud as well.
And back it up to the cloud.
Right.
And I'm not going to write on the original document, but once it's scanned, I'm going to go to my photo editing software and pull that little corner down, or that little handle down, so that I can insert a text box with the citation. Then I'm with Frank. I don't need to keep the letter that I sent 30 years ago. What else? What else do you think? Should I keep all those originals?
I keep the original certificate I got because and I have a notebook for all of them, one notebook. Okay. And then I would digitize it, and then I'd add that to my family surname files. I'd probably write about it on my blog. I source it into my Roots Magic program for the appropriate event. And then I would at least abstract it, sometimes, transcribe it into my notes in Roots Magic. Now, everything else is chaff that I don't keep. I have enough paper. I have 60 linear feet of paper that still holds down the floor in my genealogy cave. So
we wouldn't want your floor to start floating, would we?
Yeah. It's like about a family tree, right? Yeah.
Right. Well, and arguably, I'm getting toward the latter stages of my life where my kids aren't going to want all these things.
Yeah.
So if all the precious original documents are in a notebook that's archivally safe, here's a example of a Hollinger box, metal edge. I learned about from the archive lady. They might keep that. And if you'll recall, I have various artifacts. Remember my old steamer trunk that Mr. Myrt got me? And I've actually unpacked enough and have a little pathway to that trunk, so I could resume doing that with some others of the artifacts around this house that my children and grandchildren can then go over and each take whatever one they want. But in that trunk, I've got a little booklet that I've made to go with the artifact. Very few do we've downsized, so I don't have a china cabinet and all these spaces to put things. It's a much smaller house here, much easier to dust and keep clean. But yeah. Okay, any other opinionated panelists here? Maria, what would you keep?
I would just digitize everything. I think anything that can be digitized. I would get rid of everything else, just like everyone else said. But I love the idea of you doing the little notebooks to go with something. I think that's really special, and your family will always have that to appreciate, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think they won't keep the trunk, but I do think that they'll each take one little artifact and the story that I'm telling about it, or a photo, or whatever it was that I happened to share. Let's see. Any comments from the community about what they might keep? Let's see. Here's the official word from the archive lady. If your children or grandchildren don't want your genealogy stuff, start looking now for a place to donate it. Remember, archives are only interested in those original documents, not the copies. Boy, did we learn that. The first time we went to the U.S. Army Military History Institute in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, there were a lot of photocopies of diaries of soldiers that were in units of, not my ancestor, but of Barb and Audrey's. These are the three of us used to travel and do that kind of research. And so they were free to make copies of those diaries, contemporary diaries by guys who were in the same unit. So a little bit later, Mr. many years later, Mr. Myrt and I went up there, and now they have a new building, and I don't think they quite call it that anymore. But they will no longer accept anything but the original photo, the original document, and original diary.
Mm.
And I don't know why. Maybe while Melissa's saying most of our archives are full, so they're getting very picky about what they accept. That's their reasoning. Louis Kessler up north, kind of northeast of me. Yes, originals should be kept, but photocopies of original, which are what the archives might have sent you, should be digitized and trashed. Yeah. Now, I will tell you this. Remember, I'm working with the Historical Society, and what I have are those 1,400 some odd pages, I haven't gone through them all yet, of land entry files for homestead and cash entry purchases here on Guimas Island. Even the patents are not digitized and available on the Bureau of Land Management GLO file. Only the data and with the accession number and which is how I got Sandra Rumble to order up the files for me. In order for me to do research, I do really well with tangible copies of things. It's just the way my brain works. And yes, I know I have multiple monitors, but when I'm working on an Excel worksheet that was already started by the map specialist in our historical society, for me to transcribe things that I notice, like in this file, I'm noting that there is the digital image, which I printed, of the original certificate of naturalization with the cover letter. And this is circa probably 1870. So that's kind of unusual. I wish I could have touched it in person at the National Archives. But so those papers I'm printing and using as part of assimilating that information and getting it into an Excel worksheet. But I mean, I could just do it digitally, but I don't really get to know the person as well as when I'm fiddling around with these papers. It's a tactile thing. Yeah, here's another comment. Thank you, somebody, for checking it. Hi, Marie. Probably too, there may be some question about photocopies. What if something is omitted? And that is a good point, because photocopies, like I have a photocopy of a letter, but not the whole letter. I only have my cousin's notation that this was a page from a letter that was from this person to that person. You miss the context. Well, what if something is omitted or is relevant in those other pages? Yeah. All right. And also, there's a difference. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Frank.
Also, when an archive sends you some scans or so, ask for the best sites.
Front and back. Yeah.
Always.
Yep. Yeah, because especially in Bounty Land warrant scripts, which is the name of a form, it's on the back who that was assigned to, because typically the soldier doesn't go west. He assigns it on the back to a new person. Yeah. Okay. And here's another one. When digitizing, always have a backup or two. And Karen's right. And Maria, you mentioned to the cloud, in the cloud. In the cloud. Let's have a copy somewhere in the cloud, not just on your local hard drive. You know, heaven forbid that just this weekend, without a storm, a tree fell down on Julia Pingree's house. Her neighbor's tree, that had been dead for a while, fell on her house, crashed through the roof. Well, what if that crashed into her computer room? Her computer would be trashed. And even possibly if she had an external hard drive in the same room, it could have been damaged. You need to have a copy in the cloud. Yes, Melinda, I agree that I want to, that it could be finished, my research could be finished more quickly with AI. And we're going to mention that next, I think. Is that where we are in the docket, Ellen?
Nope. We need to find out what Jill is up to.
Oh, you're right. Okay, thank you for that, because I do want to get that in here. All right, this morning, well, you know, we don't have our Jill Morelli here. And this is what she's up to. I gained permission from her to use these two, well, anything I wanted, she said. But I especially wanted these two photos. So I'm going to show you this one first. This is Jill and what she's doing. And she's playing Where in the World is Jill Morelli.
Oh, I can't see it.
Hishult is the name of her ancestral hometown. Okay? Welcome to that town. Now let me get you to the next picture.
Oh, we need to
Share,
see
we
it.
can see it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's right. You guys are right on the money here. Let me pull that up. Look at that. That's one happy camper, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm so glad for her. So that's how that, I don't know how to pronounce that in Swedish because I don't speak Swedish, but anyway, she's in her ancestral hometown. Then she actually went to the church services in the same church where her ancestors worshipped, and they left in 1881 to come to America. That's a beautiful altar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. So interestingly, I asked her at about 4 o'clock my time this morning because I woke up thinking, oh my gosh, we need to share, if she would let me. And although it was friends of friends, and you all, including those of you on YouTube, are my friends, I wanted to be respectful of her photos. And so I told her how I was going to use it, and she said, well, actually, I'm now at the moment in Copenhagen eating pizza on a rainy day. So we are having the latest information on where in the world is Jill Morelli. And in this collection is also a picture I want to share with you. The world's greatest neighbor, my friend Maria Tegmeyer, who many of you know, came to visit and stay overnight in advance of a wedding of her nephew who lives a town just 2 or 3 towns away from us. And so we got to have a good visit. She stays perpetually young. Nice gal. Totally. She taught me to make Swedish rice. And what is Swedish rice? Anybody had that?
On the Google Sheets, yeah.
Yeah. Let me share the link with you all. Yeah, let me get this. Swedish rice isn't just rice that you make, you know, like with, she makes it with a 1 part rice, 1 part water. And then you boil it until the rice gets glistening. Then you add 4 parts milk and keep stirring it for an hour, about every 3 minutes. And what you end up with is, it's not sticky rice. It's more like a pudding. And does anyone know the tradition of the of placing a nut, an almond in there? Do you know that story?
No.
Well, Maria had gone on a mission for the LDS Church to Sweden. That's how she learned to make this, right from the people there. Well, what they would do in Sweden is normally they peel that almond and hide it and just, you know, dish up the Swedish rice. And whoever got that, if it was a group of women that were not married, they'd be the next one to be married within the year. Or it could be designated that's a person who's going to have good luck, etc. Anyway, it's very tasty. Mr. Myrt did his with cinnamon sugar. I did mine with some of his raspberry jam. And Maria had it with some fresh fruit. I had blueberries and sliced strawberries. So that's our cooking channel portion of the discussion today. Melinda, you're back. Are you here for a reason, kiddo?
Nope.
Nope. It's all good. Okay. All right. Let's see what the community's saying, and then we'll get moving. Okay. I do want to take Melinda's as our jumping off point, but I want to hear what other people have said. Lots of copies keep stuff safe. I drive daily for all your files, and it really important stuff on Google Drive. Karen appreciates that. Yeah, what a trip our Jill is having. And that baptismal font in her, which is a slightly different picture at Jill's Ancestors Church, is stunning. The whole thing is, I'm just so excited for her. Let me send that link out with the Swedish rice recipe. Okay. Can we switch gears and talk about something that where are we?
Mhm.
I think we're going to skip.
Oh, we're talking about dates.
I know. I'm going to do the artificial intelligence first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to be that way, I guess. So those of you who know about Yvette Hotink, you may recall that she presented an AI class at NGS, the National Genealogical Society's conference, which was a broadcast. I mean, it was a virtual conference. And that's one of the good things out of having to go through COVID isolation is we're saving money traveling. And all right. So Yvette had this thing happen. You know, she's really up with using Transkribus, and you will recall that in the spring, I had her come. It was very late spring. After her NGS presentation, I recorded an interview with her, and we shared it during Mondays with Myrt about Transkribus and how to use it. And so she was dealing with a big research assignment that included 50 years of court records. Let me share my screen. And that's a lot of pages to be working with. And remember, Dr. Jones says when you're having trouble with a name like Jones, you need to search 150 years, meaning 75 years each side of where you think it's your guy, Jones, passing away. Check the wills for 150 years total, and get to know who all the Joneses are in a neighborhood. Well, she had to work with handwritten documents from the Netherlands, and this is her process. Let me pull up Word, because what I did was summarize it. Okay, can you see this? Let me zoom in even more.
Yeah.
So when I talked with Mr. Myrt about it, I got into the weeds. These highlighted areas are the steps she took, and it took her about an hour total. How did she do that? Now, Maria's right. It will save me time if I let AI do some work, but I digress. It took her, when first she had to download the documents, there were 15 registers that covered that 150 years. And so she decided to have it download one register at a time. And she happened to be a coder, so she wrote a script to tell the website to gradually do the next one and the next one. And that's about 25 gigabytes of data. But what she did, she didn't stay up all night to do it. She happens to be a coder. You and I would have to stay up all night and keep clicking. As soon as each register was done, and click to download the next one. She just ran her script and went to bed. While she was sleeping, she was able to download it. Yes, Randy's got a good point. The records were not transcribed. That's why she's using Transkribus. She had to convert the image quality. This took her 10 minutes. So far, 15 minutes plus 10 minutes. The reason she had to convert the image quality is that they came down as a 10 megabyte per image. So there is software that you can do that with any of our photo editing software. Then she had to upload the images to Transkribus, which took her 10 minutes, another 20 minutes to start the upload. And again, she was sleeping while it was doing that. She starts these kind of jobs at the end of the day. So when she woke up the next morning, she took those images of the handwritten 15 registers from the Dutch archives. And then in Transkribus, she had to select the Danish model, Danish language model, and tell it to start the transcription. So that was 5 minutes. And again, it just took a couple of hours, but she walked away and did other things. When it was done, it took her then 5 minutes to export from Transkribus to email, which is an option there when you've done something, when you've had Transkribus do this for you. Nothing was done one page at a time like I'm doing. Each scan was a spread, many pages. Sometimes they had both sides, so sometimes she said it probably amounted to about 4,000 pages. But her total time to get it from digital image of handwritten text on a website, great volume, 15 volume, it took her about an hour of her time to get them through this process. Most of the time she was away from her computer. And so instead of having to bill her client for all that time that I'm putting in, Melinda, she is only billing for the time and the expense of the Transkribus work itself. Okay, Randy, jump in here. What's the second key?
Well, the second key is being able to code the image quality and to code the uploading of the images. That saved her a lot of time. It isn't an audit. She automated that process, and it's a skill that not all of us have.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the second key for me. But then she knew, she's worked with Transkribus enough that she knew what it took for it to work and knew the right questions to ask it to do, to perform. It's just amazing. I mean,
it really is amazing.
How long would this have taken, last year without the digital images available or without these AI tools? My guess it would have taken years.
Yeah. I told her in her blog post over in Genealogy and Artificial Intelligence Facebook group that she must hold the record for the person with the largest Transkribus project. And she said, oh no, over in Europe, this is old hat. They've been doing it a lot longer than we have. And in fact, she worked in collaboration with a gentleman, as she reported in her NGS presentation. What was I going to say? That they had done over something like 800,000 pages. in their joint project. So they're pretty experienced. We're new kids on the block where this comes. All right, Melinda, I will do this. I will commit to taking one file, one land entry file, and run it through Transkribus. And what I need to tell it to do, I already have the digital images and I can upload them because that's how the material was presented to me by my researcher, Sandra Rumble. I will report on that translation of each page or transcribing of each page and how long it took me. Would you like me to do that just on one file folder? She's shaking her head yes. Okay. What have we got? Cindy Bray. Okay. So it was our June 17th. Thank you, Valerie. Our June 17th event, Mondays with Myrt. We talk about AI a lot. Thank you. So Valerie is a de facto member of the panel. She's a good friend and has been a panelist before in some of our study groups. Yeah, I'd have to look at my spreadsheets as well. I'm just trying to remember. But remember, NGS was in May, so you're probably the right thing.
I would like to add some things to
okay, go for it. Jump in here.
My concern is when compressing images, you have to be very, very careful because the more you compress them, the more noise you add to the images sometimes, depending on the algorithm. So when you upload them to Transkribus, I personally wouldn't compress them, but you had to compress them because it were way too much data. So she had to do that. If you would just upload maybe 100 pages or so, you don't have to compress it.
Yeah, her individual item was 10 megabytes. I don't know how big mine are. I'll have to look at that. So I'm going to put what is the file size.
Also, Yvette paid for Transkribus and used this one of the supermodels. So her mileage, when you compare it to your own research, may vary because the supermodels are obviously way better trained than the free ones.
Yeah, it was trained on what, 18 million words?
Yep.
And has a less than 5% error rate. Did you want to say something there, Dave, cousin Dave?
Well, I have a couple of questions. First of all, up until about a week ago, I didn't even know how to spell AI. So when you talk about AI, my head just kind of throbbed. But Thomas McKenty did an excellent presentation for Western Mass Genealogical. So now I understand it a whole lot better. However, when she was doing these gigantic, whatever you want to call them, translations or whatever, was there no way to check whether the words were correct?
Yes, that was what she has yet to do now.
Okay, so all right, so it wasn't just a simple snap your fingers and there it is. So she's got to go through it, and
everybody needs to do that. That's the whole point of AI, is we need to not assume that what AI is presenting to us is 100% accurate.
But just so that you know, he gave 50 minutes, and it was a great, super presentation.
Well, that's good to know. Mm-hmm. I think he has done one for Family Tree webinars, Thomas McKenty.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Okay. Melinda says she prefers working with TIFF, which are the larger file format, and they are lossless, meaning unlike JPEG, which as soon as you open it and like crop off something or do something to change it, then when you save it, it's altered. I think of a JPEG. I don't know about Ping, about it being lossless or not. I don't know. But I know for JPEG, it's like a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. You'd lose that crispness. It's undetectable to the human eye on a monitor because there the megapixels for a website it's something like 90 megapixels per inch, which is not very good quality. If you were to print it, you'll see it'd be this big. The image might be. So I don't know. I will try to. I'll work on that. I don't think I will get it for. I'm not sure I'll get it for this time because this next week. Next week is our last of this series, and we start again on October 7th. And we already have a lot on the docket. I'll see. Maybe I can figure out how to present it succinctly. You know that I'm only good at talking in 90-minute increments, guys. Okay. Anyway, well, let's see. So Melinda says ping is not lossy, so it's not losing file crispness. It's not deteriorating. Thank you for that. See, it takes a village to get this story out here. Yeah, FamilySearch JPEG files with 2 pages of handwritten deeds are about 2.5 megabytes. And there's that JPEG, which will lose if you alter it, if you alter the image. Okay. Now I'm ready to do whatever you want me to do, my co-host, Ellen.
We're going to talk about dates, but not Gregorian dates.
Okay. All right. So the way I wanted to do this next part, remember last week we were broaching the subject of the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar, and the fact that Quakers talk about the first month and etc. And so I wanted to show you something with Perplexity. So let me pull it up. Perplexity.ai. Okay. And yes, let's see, let me share my screen. Okay, and down here you can see that I am logged in, so I do have a pro account here. I really like it. I use it a lot. I don't sit at my computer a lot, but when I do, it's on the other monitor to help me. Okay, now let me go get the script. Now, one of the things, and Randy will probably want to talk with me about this, since I know you do stuff like this. When we create a prompt or a script, I think prompt is the better word, there are elements that you want to include to give it some parameters. So the first element I did was to tell Perplexity, you are an instructor for genealogists. Okay, is this making sense? Who need to know the difference between the Julian and Gregorian, and various other, let's see, the Julian calendar. I guess I copied this funny. Let's fix it. Okay. And when various countries adopted the Gregorian calendar. And how does it differ from the Jewish calendar and Quaker calendar?
You probably need to add calendar after the first Gregorian there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Should I, yeah, is that good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then please explain and provide citations for each point of information. So that's my prompt. And I'm going to turn on the Pro version. You could do it without, but Pro gives me a few more choices, a few more places where it will look. All right. All right, it's working. Still working. That's this little, lets you know it's working on it. And can you see how my bar is moving up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's see what they've got. For the sources, they have 8 sources. FamilySearch Wiki. I don't know all these sources. Oh, that looks like Swarthmore College. Here's the sources. The Adoption of the Gregorian Calendar, Wikipedia. FamilySearch's article on Julian and Gregorian calendars. I'd probably take that over Wikipedia, although they may be the authors over at Wikipedia. I don't know. What calendar do we use? The differences between them. When was it adopted? This is kind of an interesting one. And there is the Quaker calendar discussion. The Gramps project. Remember what Gramps is? It's a software program.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Louis. The Jewish calendar is very different. And it might be too complicated for this question, and I maybe should not have included it. But let's just go through this list. And we don't know who Genealogy Trails is. Could be perfectly legit. I don't know. But there are some really good resources here. I trust Swarthmore College to tell me about the Quaker calendar because Swarthmore is known for being a Quaker college, and it is the repository of many colonial period Quaker records. Okay, that to me is really important. Who are the sources? So as we look over this, we are given information and key differences. That was one of the things I asked for. And that the Gregorian calendar is off by 20 seconds per year. Julian was off by 11 minutes per year. The various countries and when they adopted them. In fact, there's a much longer list than this. And then comparing the Gregorian, our current calendar, with the Jewish calendar. And something about the Quaker calendar. And this one is especially interesting, the Quaker one. I'm not glossing over. What I'm doing is showing how to use Perplexity, creating a prompt. Randy reminded me to add a word or two here or there to make it more understandable. Do you notice the superscript here? The lets us know. But anyway, in this part, understanding the calendar differences is crucial. Now, look at it this way. They use the first day for Sunday. They use numbers instead of names for months because the names they considered were pagan references. Let's go look at Swarthmore, the Quaker calendar. Now, remember last week, Sheri said she would give us the link to her resource, her go-to resource on the Quaker calendar, and this was it. She's not here today, but her presence is felt. So, Quakers followed with one exception. They had no problem with the months September through December, which were derived from the number. But they wrote first month, second month. But the trick is, what is their first month, guys? Those of you that do Quaker research. It's March. So don't think it was the person born in January. Okay, what did you find out?
I don't know.
Oh, Randy, you found the same prompt in the free version of Perplexity. You put it there, but the text wasn't exact. So did you think mine had more or less?
I think yours has more. The Pro has more. But, you know, the free gave me the information from the encyclopedias. I didn't see a source to FamilySearch. I may have missed it. I haven't looked at it in a lot of detail. But then to me, the best reason to use Perplexity and Copilot does the same thing, basically, is that they cite sources. The others use sources, but they don't really cite them.
That's exactly my feeling about it. Here we are. Let me click on this one for the Gregorian versus the Julian calendar. It takes us right to the FamilySearch wiki. I am not logged into FamilySearch at all.
Yep.
And it is explaining it. And here's the list that I love.
Okay.
So which country, the year that they adopted the Gregorian calendar, and Denmark and Norway were kind of, some places were earlier, some places later. That's a nice long list. I mean, even in the various principalities of Germany, in this time period before we had Germany as we knew it in 1871, yeah, they all picked different time periods. So if I'm taking the time, well, first of all, I'll show you Perplexity, but to show you this table, that tells you probably need to really pay attention to the dates, even with, like, in the Lorraine area of France, that Alsace-Lorraine area. Well, Alsace is it's next to it. Even in the 1760s, took them a while to get around to it, I guess. I don't know. It makes us think. That's what we want.
For Russia, it was 1918, I think.
Oh my gosh, that was awful. I'll scroll down and see first. See. Korea, 1896, Latvia, Lithuania. Look at these dates.
Yep.
Get RS. USSR, 1918. That's a shock. Totally a shock.
Well,
All right.
I talk about double dating in intro classes, the genealogy intro classes, and everybody gets all excited. Oh, double dating, what are you talking about? And I go into this thing about the Gregorian and the Julian, and I explain to them that the King of England was not a big fan of the Pope.
Yeah, right. That old Henry VIII. Yeah,
Henry VIII. And so whatever Rome was doing, that's their problem. And he just stuck with the Julian calendar. And then it goes on from there, talking about much of the things that you've been talking about here. But it helps them understand. I don't get into and I should, I suppose, the Jewish or the Quaker calendar, just to touch on it, not spend a lot of time on it, but to touch on it in case people run into it. Because, I run into it, from time to time. And I know what the deal is, but I don't teach about it in the classes so much. But, and a lot of people just go, oh my God, because they had no idea. They didn't realize what the, 1740/41. They had no idea what that meant. And when I first started, I thought it was just somebody made a mistake until like
they couldn't read the lettering.
Exactly.
The handwriting.
Yep. So I like presenting that to newbies in classes.
And that's to help take care of when they're transitioning between the Julian and the Gregorian, because the Julian calendar started in March and the Gregorian calendar starts in January. So you got a 3-month, suddenly everybody got 3 months older or younger or whatever. It was a mess. Louis says all of his Russian ancestors were recorded in Julian dates, and also some of his Romanian ancestors' records were recorded and noted as old date and new date. Not having Romanian ancestry, I haven't experienced that. But that's interesting. Thanks. Yeah, and we got that link. Okay. So I know I'm diverting. Let's see, where are we? Went to that. Are we ready for the lightning round? Let's do it, because we have a lengthy lightning round today. Okay. So I'm going to pull up. Once in a while, I should actually tell you about good genealogy bookstore websites. Am I sharing my screen?
No.
Nope.
Not yet.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice if I did?
It
Right
would.
now, they're focusing through to, usually they send this out after Mondays with Myrt, or I forget about it because they might send it on a Friday. What I've sent you is the link to genealogical.com. It's one of the several premier genealogical publishing houses here in the U.S. And they're having a sale, 20% off on some of their New England sets. But you will be able to search by author and title and all that stuff. This is the publisher of Elizabeth Shown Mills, Evidence Explained. Okay, the next thing.
Unusual death certificates.
Oh, yes. So Threads, do you remember when we all were leaving Threads or X because it was getting a little harsh? Well, Threads is where, and I'll send you this link because you should follow our panelist, Daniel Loftus. And I'm still calling him my panelist because when he's able, he will be here. He's still doing school and things like that. Not still, but I mean, we have lives. He had an interesting entry in a death record for a 16-and-a-half-year-old. And this is what it is saying here. Over here, it had to do fracture. I don't know if you can read this. Let me try to make it slightly bigger. Okay.
To run that through A&I and get it.
Yeah, fracture of the skull associated with hemorrhage, and the jury urges the public to equip themselves and their passengers with a crash helmet when riding a motorcycle. Wow. So that's our unusual document for the week. Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
He said sometimes when it's sort of like a coroner's report, isn't it? Whereas in the U.S., you'd have a death certificate that would have just said, car accident. The cause of death was a car accident. But the coroner's report would give you details about the fracture of the skull and brain damage. What is it like? Have you ever seen anything like this over in Germany, Frank?
I actually have.
Okay.
With my, I think, great grandfather. In the church records of his dad, it is written that he tried to save one of his children and both drowned in the same lake.
Oh, that's a hard thing. Very hard.
That's a hard thing, especially for the woman being left with 8 children and a big farm.
Oh, very difficult. All right. Well, I've never seen something like this on a death certificate.
Well, Myrt is frozen.
We lost Myrt.
Okay, there she is. She's back.
I'm back.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Myrt, you're going to have to turn off your internet on your phone and possibly put yourself in airplane mode. I'm sorry, honey. We live here on an island with hardly any internet. It's amazing I ever get through. Anyway. I read the Legal Genealogist this morning and found out, I knew about the lawsuit. Here's what the lawsuit was about. You know that the Internet Archive does a lot of good things, but one of the things that frustrated book publishers is that the Internet Archive scanned over 500,000 books that are still covered by copyright. And they were claiming fair use, and the court, the first court said no, And now the appellate court has said no, they're copyrighted. And these book publishers go ahead, and this is actually the, can you see this? I think you can.
Yeah.
Here's what happens when a book is published. You can have a hard copy, you can have a paperback copy, but they also make digital copies. And if you'll ask a librarian, they pay for those digital copies for a certain period of time, not for in perpetuity. Why? Because they're approximating how long that book, if it had been in book format, would survive being checked in, checked out, back and forth, what the shelf life is of the book. And so if they wanted to continue to have the book available in e-format, the library has to buy it again. And so by the Internet Archive circumventing that whole thing, got a problem, Houston. Yeah, but this is what bugs me and what I thought about too. IA, not AI, Internet Archive, is an essential research resource for all of us with out of copyright material, records research, and books. And it's the repository of choice for many, including Reclaim the Records. Now, her thought is that this judgment is probably going to have some monetary damage judgment. And she's saying we only hope that the Internet Archives won't be crippled or even destroyed by such a damaged judgment. So we're going to have to find out what happens. So this is the link. I'll share it with you. I love how she does this on the bottom of her post. Oh, Melinda's already shared the link with you. No problem. I'll give you the full citation, but not non-issue. We did that one. Randy, you and I need to talk for a minute. When last we spoke, we talked about the fact that you noted 106 records had been deleted from FamilySearch.org. They were mostly indexes. A net loss of 87 record sets. And you wrote about it because you do a routine thing every week. And I made a mention, maybe David Rencher can let us know what's up. This happened on Friday when I was aware of it. And he said, it's a 3-day weekend, I'll get back to you. And when he did get back to me, he said he's been told by the engineers that it's been fixed. What did you note?
Well, thank you for asking him, because he has power, obviously. Yeah. But this happened actually 2 weeks before that. Okay. Where it deleted 170 of them. And then brought some back the next week. And then this third week was last week, where we lost the 87 or whatever. And now this week, this last weekend, there were more of them are back. They added 239 back in, and I don't know how many of them are actually new, but the number is similar now. The number of digitized record collections on their website under search is now 3378, I think it is, or 68, whatever. And it was down on 3170s before. So they may be doing things with the contracts. They updated like 1,000 for a couple of weeks. I didn't even list them all because, Logger couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And so, they're doing something. It may be contracts. It may be coalescing collections together. If you have 4 collections of California birth records, the different years. They may be coalescing it all into one. Don't know.
Yeah.
So they'll explain it eventually, I think. But I'm happy that most of them are coming back, and we may see more of this next week.
We noticed in that time, over that weekend of Labor Day, that some people who were used to doing research, like in Minnesota or Ohio, that the records that they said had been removed were in fact accessible. So it was getting repaired even over that weekend.
Yeah.
There's always the challenge. Hi, Maria. You want to tell me something about the time?
Yes, ma'am. It's time.
Okay, 10 more minutes. We're getting close. Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, we're not criticizing. We just want to understand. We recognize that there are contractual arrangements that may preclude FamilySearch from having a record available in digital format and only retain the index. You know, we're so thankful for anything that any of these websites do to make records available to us. We can sit there in our jammies and our bunny slippers. So, yeah, but we kind of got a little panicky when this was going on. So I'm glad things are looking more even again. So thank you.
Yeah, my friend Marshall is a coder, and so he can find these things. He somehow takes an image of the whole list of FamilySearch record collections, compares it to last week's list. So that's what I use to show what's deleted, what's added, what's updated in different categories. It's a marvelous thing. We've done it for 3, 4, 5 years now.
Yeah. You do that, and you do family or ancestry, and I noticed you did one for Find My Past.
I do Find My Past every week, and I do My Heritage every week or two.
Yeah, well, My Heritage, since you brought it up, let me share my screen, did something different. Big change for those of you that have Quebec, or do you, Ellen, let me know, do you say Quebec or Quebec?
I say Quebec, but
I don't know. Anyway,
I'm from Alberta, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I subscribe to Business Wire, and my keyword is always genealogy. We can pull everybody back up for the end here because I want to do the thank yous. But while you're pulling people up, we'll look at this website. My Heritage acquired a thing, and I don't know how to pronounce that. It is in French, but it's a Quebec genealogy company.
Mes aïeux.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. And they specialize in the French-Canadian genealogy. It's been around since 2004. Let me zoom in a lot. And I think there's something like, it's adding a great amount. They have 1 million members. So this was a big purchase on the part of My Heritage. Outside the United States, My Heritage is bigger than Ancestry, guys. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad to see that. Here's the link to that.
Well, the neat thing about Mes aïeux is that you can read it in French, or you can click on English. So everything gets translated automatically for you into English. So you don't have to be a French-speaking person to use Mes aïeux. I think it's My Friends or something. What the heck is it? I forget how to translate. But I've used Mes aïeux many times, and I just use the English version.
Okay, it's in French here, and there's
English. All right, there you go.
So I didn't even have to use my Google Translate.
No.
So I'll change it to English,
There
and
you go.
here's this website. Okay, there you go, guys. Well, what a day we've had. We're actually going to finish a minute or two early by the time I do all my thank yous. Wow. I sure appreciate everybody being here this morning. It was a lot of fun. We worked around the schedule. Ellen was my co-host today. I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. I
Thank
tried.
you. Yeah. Was it nerve-wracking doing it?
A little bit.
Well, I didn't obey you all the time, did I? Sometimes I got to do this thing, and I apologize. But it was fun working.
Oh, that was fun.
And I see you as a very good co-host.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Frank, thanks for information about the specifics to me in the green room for our Google Sheet about Yvette. Appreciate you. Dave, it's so good to see you and have you back. I was so happy when you called. I was busy getting ready for Maria's arrival, and like I need to jump in the shower and do this and that and other stuff. I'm like, no, I have to answer the phone. It's you.
Well, as we say, it's better to be seen than viewed.
This is true. Okay, Maria, thanks for popping in there. I see you're really comfortable with StreamYard, and it helps me keep on time. Cousin Randy, thank you for, as always, for your portion, your contributions. It's a lot of things. I agree with Valerie. Lots of info and learning about new things today. Yes, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Melinda, for being on the YouTube side and sharing links. That helps. There's nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.